What's going on, you guys? Paul here, Paul's Performance, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to kind of go over with you guys how to raise the cab on a 6.0 Powerstroke, the F series. Obviously, you're not going to be lifting up any kind of line. This is a 2006 Ford F-250, and I'm going to show you guys how I'm raising the cab on this. There is differences for different people. They take off different things, but it's mostly the same. So I'm going to show you guys all the little steps that I do. This is actually the first time I'm doing a cab on a 6.0. I usually do it from everything under the hood, but I figured I'd give it a shot and raise the cab this time. I'm going to have to do a set of heads, and I was like, you know what, let's try it and see if it's any better. I've got the underhood version pretty quick now. I have the lifting arm and everything for the head, so I still believe I can do it faster that way, but I feel like it's gonna be a lot more convenient to raise the cab on this. And I gotta do cab bushings, so I was like, you know what, we're already doing that, so perfect time to raise the cab. We're gonna get under the hood, we're gonna get inside, and I'm gonna show you everything you're gonna have to do. As you all may know, the 6.0s are not built for the cabs to come up for repairs like the 6.4 and the 6.7 Powerstroke, whereas they have everything made to where you can have the cab up in 30 minutes. It's definitely possible on really any truck, but it's possible on this one. A lot of people, that's the only way they do any sort of major engine work on a 6.0 is raise the cab. I don't, but like I said, figured we'd give it a shot. It's not that bad, but I still think I could have done it faster up under the hood, but it's definitely harder, especially when you're back. So like I said, we're gonna try this. So let's go under the hood, and I'll go step by step and try to show you guys everything I have disconnected, because the cab is ready to come up on this one. So we're not going to be doing step-by-step taking off, but I'm going to show you everything that you need and give you a basic runaround of everything you're going to need to take off if you're kind of debating whether or not you want to do the cab up or if you want to do it from under the hood. I can already tell you, if you don't have a lift, might as well call it quits now, because I don't know how else you're going to raise the cab unless you stick some forks straight through your cab and lift it up with a forklift or something, which I do not recommend. Not take that to the bank. If you're doing this at home and you don't have a lift, you might as well call this way not the way for you. But if you have a lift, this could be an option. So let's get under the hood and I'll show you guys everything that I have off. So first we're gonna start out on the driver's side in the engine bay, and I'm gonna go over everything. Hopefully I don't miss anything, but basically when you're removing the cab, you just wanna look for anything that's attached to the cab and disconnect it. So the first thing, you're gonna remove your battery box, just to open up this area so that you can see more. But I guess I'll start closer towards the bottom. At the bottom here, you got to disconnect your steering shaft. On the 6.4s, for those of you guys who've done that, they have a little connect right here, but this one you'll have to disconnect straight from the gear. So disconnect that. You're going to want to disconnect your lines going into the gear, your power steering lines, because like I said, the gear is going to stay with the frame. So you're going to want to do that. And the next thing you're going to want to do is disconnect the line from your power steering. Like I said, this can vary on where you disconnect it. I disconnected it from right there. That way I could drain it into a pan a little easier. And then the other line, I disconnected from up top up here at the hydro boost, and I just have it dangling over here. Basically, you can see I have bungee cords and stuff, but as you can see, upper radiator hose disconnected. You have your other coolant hose that goes to the degas bottle. As you can see, the degas bottle is gone. Here's the hose that goes around the back side of the cab. You'll want to disconnect that from your Y fitting and have the Y fitting, because it's I'm leaving that with the engine, and that way this will go up with the cab. And then we have our brake parts. So obviously your brake lines are going to stay with the cab. Instead of me disconnecting brake lines and having to bleed the entire truck, those of you guys, if you want to do that, by all means, I just took the module, unbolted the module, took off the master cylinder, and I have that draped over here, kind of held up out of the way. That way when I raise it up, cab will miss it, and then once I get it up, I'll just kind of droop it out of the way while I work on the truck. ABS module and master cylinder, as you can see, disconnected. Now as far as wires go, you'll have a couple connectors here. Your engine harness, I have that drooped over there, but your engine harness will hook up to these two connectors and then to your computer, which will be right here. You'll disconnect that, droop that over there. This is your ABS module connector. I may be missing some things here, but once you get this open like this with your battery box, you just need to make sure that you disconnect everything that will be going with the cab. Here's my lower radiator hose. Matter of fact, I'll get that completely out of the way. I believe that is just about it for this side. Obviously, charge air pipes, stuff to that nature. As you can see, I have the fan, shroud, fan, and all that stuff is removed. You're gonna have to disconnect your transmission lines and your radiator hose from the bottom of the radiator because your transmission lines will stay. It should be just two. We'll go over that a little bit here later. But I believe that's everything on the driver's side. And now we will move to the passenger side. So now we are on the passenger side, and we'll start with the harness. So you have your harness, your engine harness on this side, which will have a cable going up to the battery. You'll disconnect that. And here, as you can see, here's my battery cables. You'll want to make sure you disconnect your battery cables, and you'll pull the battery cable all the way from the other side. And I have that drooped over. Like I said, there's different ways to disconnect stuff, but this is just how I've done it. So harness is out of the way, battery cables out of the way on top of the motor. Next thing is we have a ground strap here that goes over and connects right here to the cab. You'll want to disconnect that. There's also another ground that goes right here that connects to the battery cable, the negative. You'll disconnect that when you're doing the battery cables. Like I said, just make sure your battery cables are disconnected from all the cab points. Once you have that done, you'll have a coolant line here that goes to your heater box, your other heater box connection. You disconnect that from right here, and I'm gonna leave that with the cab. For the AC system, you can either discharge your AC and then just undo the lines, which I don't like to do that because I don't like to leave the lines open for extended periods of time and get a lot of moisture in them. So I just unbolted the AC compressor and I have it sitting over here off to the side. Yes, it's a little bit harder, but for one, I don't have an AC machine. I have to do everything manually with AC with good old manifolds. And for two, I didn't want to leave it open. I just wanted to leave it completely sealed. So I have it unbolted from the motor and over here out of the way. So that'll make it much easier for me because I won't have to worry about refilling the system. All I gotta do is bolt this bad boy back up and move on. So as far as for this side, AC, and making sure that all of your ground connections are disconnected. If you look down here, you see where all the grounds go. They attach to the frame and down there to the motor. I had to unbolt the ground from the motor to get the AC compressor out, but you could leave that connected. The main thing is getting your grounds disconnected from the body and your battery and getting those out of the way. Charge air pipe, which I already had removed. Like I said, you guys will too when you're opening it up. You kind of see how open it is. But that's just about everything. I may have missed a connector or two. You see, you got your map gauge. I just unbolted the map gauge and unplugged the connector from the cab, and I have that just drooped over there as well. I think that is it. Like I said, I may have missed something, so those of you guys out there that could be in the comments, you can help me out, but don't attack me. Like I said, I'm not going step by step. I've already done this, but just trying to give you guys an overview. So now we're gonna go inside the cab and we're gonna talk about body mounting bolts, and then I'll kind of go over the underneath side. I won't be able to show you the underside, but it's not very much that you really have to do under there, so I'll just go over that. So let's go inside the cab. Those of you who know, the 6.0 was not made for the cab to come up by Ford. So they don't have bolts coming up from the bottom with cage nuts like the newer trucks so that you can get them off very easily, which they're not always easy. A lot of times the cage nuts spin. Sometimes they do as they are supposed to. But as you can see by this sitting right here, you're gonna have to remove the rear seat. Which is not that bad. It's just a couple nuts and bolts and you get the whole seat assembly out. And now I'm going to show you the bolts. See, on the 6.0s, the bolts bolt down from the inside to the bottom instead of up from the bottom side like all the newer trucks. So you'll have to remove the seat and pull the carpet up, and you'll have one bolt, well, you'll have two bolts on the back side of the cab. That'll go right there through this hole, and there'll be one on the other side of the truck as well. And then you'll have a second set of bolts that is up here underneath the carpet. There's your hole. There'll be a rubber plug in that. So you'll have one there and one on the other side of the floorboard. All you should have to remove is this plastic piece, your seat, your jack equipment, and then you can pull up the carpet enough to get both of these unbolted. You shouldn't have to remove none of your pillars or anything like that. It's going to be tight on this front one, but you can push the carpet up enough to be able to get the bolt out. And then they just bolt out with the impact. Now your front ones, they are a lot easier. If I can get the door open, probably not. But if you look right there, all you got to do for the front one is pull the carpet back in the front, and you'll see a rubber plug just like you'll see in the rear, and that'll be another set. Both sides, driver side and passenger side, the same way. All you have to do is pull the carpet up. So now we'll go to the front bolts, which are, to me, the harder ones because they'll have a nut, so you might need some help. So the front bolts will be all the way up here. If you look at the charge cooler and look straight down the side of it, you'll see a nut. As you can see, there's just an empty hole, if we can get a good view on it, right there where the nut used to be, but there'll be a nut and a bolt on the bottom, and you'll unbolt that on this side and the same for the other side, and there you go. You have all of your cab mount bolts out. And this is a crew cab, so if you have an extended cab, or if you're lucky enough to have a regular cab like us, or cultured folk, then you'll have less bolts, obviously. I think a regular cab has 6. This one has 8. I'm not sure. I haven't raised cab on mine, but anyways, that's all your bolts. So once you have your under hood area disconnected, and then you have your bolts out, then you can start working on the underside. So the first things you need to do on the underside, which is one thing I may have forgotten, you need to disconnect the vacuum lines that go to your four-wheel drive if you have that. This one is a four-wheel drive with auto locking. So disconnect your vacuum line up here and pull it down. That way it stays with the frame. The other thing you're going to want to do is disconnect your plugs. Probably can't find it, but there should be a plug right here that goes down to the wheel speed sensors on both sides. You'll want to unplug those as well. The only other things that you really need to do from the bottom side is, if we go to the passenger side of the truck, basically underneath the frame right here on the very side of the frame rail, there will be there's a ground strap that goes from the cab and connects directly to the frame. You'll want to take that strap off, and then you'll want to go to the other side of the truck and you want to disconnect your shifter linkage from the transmission that goes to the shifter on the inside. Disconnect that and get that away from the transmission. It'll have a plastic tab that bolts it onto the shifting mechanism, and then it'll have a clip holding it to a bracket on the side of the transmission. And then you'll need to disconnect your park brake cable. We'll pull in and out. They are not the simplest thing to do, but that's really it for the underside. I think the only other thing I did from the underside was obviously disconnect the lower radiator hose and disconnect the 2 transmission lines. That was the only other things I did from the bottom. Everything else was under the hood. So once you get all that accomplished, then we can raise the cab. So I have all that stuff done, I'm pretty sure. So we're gonna raise the cab, and then possibly once I get the cab up, I can actually go back over some of the underside stuff and show you the shifter linkage, the park brake cable, and the grounds that I'm talking about, just so you guys can have a better look at it. I know me telling you probably ain't gonna help you much, but it really won't that much stuff on the underside. So let's see if we can get it up in the air, and then we'll go back over that. When you're raising the cab, you always want to go very, very slow. Go up like a couple inches and verify, because as always, you probably missed something. I think I missed a couple connectors on the driver's side, and then like a couple little clips. If you're doing this all the time, like I said, this is my first time doing a 6.0 cab up, because I always do it under the hood, but you're probably always gonna miss something. And even if you do it all the time, you still want to go slow, because you never know if something's catching. You're really gonna struggle probably on the 6.0 like this one with the steering shaft, since it doesn't have that 2-piece design like the 6.4s. That whole steering shaft, if you unbolt it from the gearbox, is coming up. So all of your stuff that's in that line has to be cleared out while you're coming up, like your master cylinder and your brake lines. I had to fight that a little bit as Samuel was raising it up. So that was about the only inconvenience, other than me missing like a couple little clips stuff. But we got everything, so now we're gonna raise it up, and we'll go over some more of the stuff that from the underside that you guys didn't get to see. The cab is up because I am standing underneath it, and I'm gonna show you guys the stuff that I went over, the underside that I didn't exactly get a good clip of, but now that it's up, we can show you exactly what it looks like. Coming from the back, you have your park brake cable. And as you can see, here's the piece that goes up to your cab. You'll have this little pop in. You'll need to pop out of the frame rail, and then you'll need to disconnect your line here from your connection joint here. Once it's already been done, there's a little notch that's inside here that you'll have to beat in, but once it's beat in, this piece will be able to slide into this bigger opening and pop right out. But Ford puts a little notch in there to keep it from sliding out, but most of the time once the cab goes up, that notch has to get knocked out in order for you to get it out. So hopefully you're doing one that's already been done, because if not, you'll need to beat that notch out. So there's one thing that happens on the underside. Number two, you have your shifter mount. Here is your shift mechanism in the transmission, and here is where your shifter will mount. And if you come up here to the cab, as you can see, there's your shifter cable, and there's where it mounts down to your bracket, and this is where it pops on to the actual shifting mechanism. And all you have to do is pop that off, pop this off, and there you go. You're good with this area. So then I'm gonna come up here, and I'm gonna show you some of the stuff that I forgot. Don't tell nobody, but you got these connectors here, and they come up into the fender well. There's like a row of them. So you got these connectors here, you'll disconnect. You have some more connectors in this general area that you'll connect. We'll lay those off to the back. We're gonna be doing heads. As you can see, here is my brakes, master cylinder, ABS module. And to raise it up with the steering shaft, this is what I was talking about, you guys might have to fight a little bit, is I had to hold this out of the way so that the steering shaft could come up before I could roll this over and it would miss the fender well. So I had to set this up into the fender well and raise it up until the steering shaft got above the brake lines, and then I just drooped it over into the engine bay so that the fender well would miss. That was about the hardest part that I had to really mess with. I also forgot this little connector here, which goes up to my fog lights, I believe. It was right there in the fender well. I raised it up a couple inches, and then you need to go around and look for anything that's either pulled tight or you still see connected. And like I said, go slow until you get it up to about a foot, and you can look over the entire frame rail and say, okay, everything's disconnected. I can go on up. So there's that. Now we'll go to the other side. I didn't really forget anything on this side. This clip where the transmission line goes, it was still on to the underside, like where the radiator is, so I did have to pop that off. I think that was the only thing we missed on this side. If you come over here, you can see this bolt I have screwed in. This is that ground I was talking about. I have the bolt screwed back in, and if you come up here, you can see on the cab, here is the ground strap. So like I said, this ground strap connected right there, and that was it. As you can see, I believe that's all I need to show you from the bottom. Like I said, here's the cab bushings that are in dire need of changing. I think one of them was completely gone on the bottom. This one, as you can see, is deteriorated. So yeah, we're gonna put the S&B silicone ones on there. So she should ride a whole lot better when we go back on. That was really the main reason I wanted to raise the cab on this one. And to be honest, I knew it was going to be nice once the cab was up, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I thought it was really just too much work to raise the cab on this comparative to doing it under the hood. And I still think I can do it quicker under the hood. This will be a lot easier when it comes to setting the heads on. I definitely wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't something major like this, because I've done all types of work with the cab on. I've done burnt out pistons, head gaskets, the whole 9 yards. So I do think it's quicker, but it's definitely probably harder to do than this, because this is very open. Obviously, when you raise the cab on any truck, it's very open. So this is going to be very nice. I'm going to be able to set the heads very, comfortably, instead of, with the crane and my little tilter or by hand. It's going to be better. Here's the vacuum line that goes down that I told you need to disconnect. This vacuum line comes up through here and connects where your battery box area is. So I disconnected it up there and drooped it down. And like I said, there's wheel speed sensor connectors where you disconnected those from the fender wells. I think that's everything. Like I said, I'm sure I missed a couple things, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys an overview and basically my Paul's performance review on raising the cab on a 6.0 Powerstroke. It's not the actual Ford repair. There's nowhere in the Ford manual that says, you know, for these 6.0s that you raise the cab for repairs like the 6.4s and 6.7s. So it's, I know people do it, but like I said, I'm not one of those people. This is my first time, but I'd have to say it's not that bad. As you can see, it's not crazy to, you know, do. I do think it's a little bit more time consuming, but it's definitely going to be way easier to do with this cab out of the way. Anyways, we're going to make sure we got all our stuff out of the way and make sure I didn't miss anything for you guys. And then we should be able to end this video. So one last thing before we finish up here is whenever you're raising the cab on any truck, you always want to be safe about it. So once you get the cab away from the truck, before you get too high and mighty up in the air, you want to make sure that you strap it down. I have it ratchet strapped from the rear. The front, you can ratchet strap all four corners, but the main thing is to strap this rear section because you do have the front end of the cab extending out past the lift points. So you definitely want to make sure that you have some pressure down here because you don't want this cab to tilt over and fall. And then you want to make sure that it's held down to the lift so that it can't go anywhere. So make sure you at least have straps on the rear of the truck to hold it down, preferably some heavy duty ones. I have to get another strap. I have a ratchet strap on this side, but I can't find my other one at the moment, so I'm gonna have to go find that. But try not to use a pull strap. It might be okay, because I mean, like I said, most likely the cab's not gonna go forward, but use a heavy duty strap. I'm gonna replace that one. I just need to do it until I find my other strap. Someone has stolen it. Anyways, that was it. That's the last kind of little tip I have for you guys and for raising this cab. Oh, and for those of you guys who have done this many times, those of you mechanic guys out there, or you know, you part specialists that know everything, that's just a joke. Calm down. But for real, like I said, those of you guys who have raised the cab many times, if you have any tips, like I said, please let me know what you guys did differently. I'd love to get any sort of way to do this better. I love getting faster and faster each time. I'm not sure if this is going to be my go-to way yet. I do like this way a lot. I wish it was a little bit faster. So like I said, for those of you guys who have done this many times, like I said, please feel free to comment. Let me know if there's any way I could have done any of this a little bit quicker. But anyways, like I said, hope you guys enjoy this video. Like I said, any questions, please comment, like, and subscribe. And as always, see you guys next time.